Right, we should now be live. Quick message Brenton. A little bit of posting stuff. Right. Wait for a few people to show up before get going. Right, if you are here and can hear me, make some kind of indication. There we go, hello. Fab. I'm just going to give it a few minutes for a couple more people to show up, because I know there were a few people who wanted to come and... Ah, yes. Is it Palidician? I'm assuming? And Hello Quartz. Palidician. Gotcha. There's a handful of responses on the form, and as mentioned, I'll be taking questions live after covering the main bits. So... Hello, Jawa. Yes, I recognise the name. You don't even know what to install? Don't worry, because I'm starting right from the beginning. There are a few bits and bobs here or there, and we'll get going. You'll make a billion custom... Making custom colours is not easy, I can assure you. Making them work in-game is even harder. Ah, welcome, Chris. Yeah, it's not something I've heard you're very used to. How map make? Yet to find out. But hopefully, if I wing it as I go along, I'll make the sound of something that seems relevant. But if there is anything I miss out, hopefully someone will point it out. I will do my very best to cover absolutely everything, though. You're not on camera, you can grab your thing.
Mum's
Okie doke.
it's blown up.
Oh dear. Good luck. Love you. And maybe I can solve the problem you have with Godot. That is the hope. That would be good. So, what I might do, I'm very tempted to just do this and then just have the music in the background. That was a follow from Kit Katricia. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm literally just going to load into level 1 so there's some music in the background, because otherwise it's going to be really quiet. There we go. Oh, you can't Alt-Enter to exit full screen? Shambolic. Impossible, ridiculous. Right. There's a handful of people here now, so I think now is about the time to get started. So, there's a lot of prep for this, and by a lot, I mean like 4 things you need to do. So, number 1, you're going to need to get a GitHub account, and you're going to need to message Brenton about it. And what he will do is he will give you access to the game files. Yes, that's right, it is literally from the game files. There's no world maker. I'm ignoring the fact that Suvi's thing works. no one will be using that ever for anything other than like individual rooms. But yeah, you will need access to the game files. And when Brendan has given you access on your GitHub account, you're going to want to make sure that you have GitHub Desktop app installed. You don't need this. This is how I know how to do it. There's a couple of other ways to do it. This is just the easiest for me, and it helps you stay organized about it. So when you are on your GitHub account on here, frantically making a GitHub account, don't worry, like I've said, this whole thing is going to be recorded, timestamped and everything, and I'll put it on YouTube. So once you've got your GitHub, that will happen a lot, by the way. That will happen a lot. So yes, it's getting recorded and timestamped, because I have a feeling that this is not going to be... I thought they did answer it. I'm sorry if I didn't. Oops. But yeah, I'm also recording it through OBS, so it's all going to be on YouTube later. Now I feel like I should make level tree in the way that it's... If you do that, I will be very impressed. I will be extremely impressed. Brendan definitely needs to learn how to make a map. I don't know if he's ever made one before, actually. There was one that's like... I mean, it was like a Taylor Swift themed map. It was okay. Just required a bit too much Googling once you realised what the theme was. Anyway, yes. GitHub account's made, I'm assuming. That was a follow from Jawa. Thank you very much. Is it Jawa? Java? Yawa? Yava? We'll never know. We'll probably find out in 30 seconds when he tells me. Did Brenton make Isley's Palace? No. Chris Suvi did. So, GitHub account's made. Added to the repository by Brenton. Fab. Next step is cloning it. So you should see under your repositories in the top left on the GitHub app that you have access to Lingo's repository. I have a few of these because Brenton has a few of these. Pronounce it Americanly. Jawa. I don't know. Is it? Maybe? Yeah. So you're downloading your stuff from Brenton. And once you're on the Lingo repository, you should see that you have current branch main. Ignore all of these. You can ignore pretty much any of these. These are usually other people's. I have a few. You can ignore all of those. Make sure to pronounce exactly like that in the future. Perfect. So, once you've got this ready, you want to go new branch, and you can name it whatever you want. I could just call it Steve. We'll call it Steve for now, because that's the best name. So, once you've done this, you should now have basically everything ready, except for one thing is that you don't have the game files installed, which is incredibly important, and if I forget to go over that, someone will go, but my Godot editor doesn't have it. And that's to be expected by this stage. So, from here, I believe it's repository, and then you're going to want to go... Where is it? There's clone repository somewhere. I might be stupid. Possibly. There it is. It's under file. You click clone repository, and it will tell you where to go, and then you're going to want to do some local path. That's just going to be where it's all installed. For me, it's in a folder on my desktop, because I am lazy. My thing will open. Desktop. Lingo map work. It's this folder. And you'll get a folder that looks kind of like this. Desktop supremacy? Yes. As you can see, I have pretty much everything here. So there's a few things going on in here. While you're here, you should mention pulling. Very good point. So periodically, there will be updates to the game. Unsurprisingly, but these are not Steam updates. These are whenever Brenton makes small changes to bits of code, and by Brenton I usually mean Chris. When that happens, you'll want to go to main, and then you'll see fetch origin here. Sometimes this will say pull, sometimes it says fetch. I don't think anyone knows why. But you just want to click it a few times, just to make sure that you've got everything ready to use. You can then swap back to your branch, and then I believe it's under... Where is it? Somewhere there is a thing that says update. There it is. So from branch, you're going to want to do update from main. And that's just going to make sure that anything that Brenton adds will get copied over into this. As it said there, this is already updated from main because I've only just made this branch. So that's all fine. Everything is exactly as I've expected it to be right now. and I've got all of these. Your brain has officially left the building. If it's a little confusing, you don't need to worry about most of this. You can just use main. So when you add to yourself to the repository and you have access to it, it will just be on main. You can just use that. You just don't want to publish changes. But yeah, this will all be fine so far. Somewhere, as long as you've got this stuff installed, you're ready. The only reason I'm covering making branches is because otherwise you end up with an installation like mine. And the problem with that is you have 35 different maps that are called Wasteland 1, Wasteland 2, Wasteland 3, Wasteland 4, going on for many, many, many rows. And yes, as Brenton has said, much of this early stuff you will find on the Lingo website. It is at, if I find it, lingothegame.com/create.html. This is a little bit of an outdated page. There's been a lot of stuff that's been added and tweaked since this page was made. So it looks like this. Huzzah. So yeah, all of the stuff about the development environment is on here. Very importantly, you will need to visit this site anyway, because the next thing you'll need to install is the Godot engine. A lot of people I've seen have had the issue where they have downloaded Godot 4. That doesn't work. So Lingo is made in Godot 3. So using this link in particular, which as you can see is now downloading some stuff, that is going to give you access to the actual editor itself. And then when that's installed and updated and everything, excellent, you're pretty much ready to go. Lingo 2 is going to be Godot 4. That is good to mention. Lingo 2 does not exist yet, so if anything is different in Lingo 2 map making, I will briefly cover it. Milan can't wait to learn how to make Lingo maps. I don't think you've ever made a Lingo map. I think you've made artworks. You missed everything? Don't worry, I'll do a very quick go over real quick now, just to make sure it's all together and concise, because I was obviously distracted a bit by some chat messages here or there. So, for the setup itself, everything you need is written on here. You're going to want to download the Godot engine from here. You're going to want to download the GitHub from here. You're going to want to make sure that Brenton has you added to the repository itself. Then on the GitHub app, you're going to want to set your repository to Lingo. You can use main, you can use your own branch. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. Fetch and pull origin every so often. Key things that Lingo development only works on Windows? Yes. Lingo is a Windows-only program regardless of anything else. You've got your branch. You want to go File, Clone Repository, set it somewhere so you've got the files downloaded, and you're basically ready to go on the GitHub part. Good? Good, I hope. From that stage, you will then have to worry about getting Godot ready. So, if you've downloaded it, installed it and everything, you'll have a folder that looks a bit like this. You'll roll it back a few times, it's alright. All good. Periodically, I'll just go back over a little bit here or there, so it's more concise and less scattered. So, one very small thing that some people care about, I personally don't, but apparently I did once before, is there a way to prevent it from updating? Prevent the GitHub app from updating, or Godot? Because Godot shouldn't automatically update. If your Godot is automatically updating, I am afraid I don't know what's causing that, because my Godot doesn't update. I don't think anyone has had this issue. You can't go back in the stream? Don't worry. Any questions you have at the end, I will go over stuff once again if anyone needs. I don't know how long this is going to be, by the way. It could be anywhere between an hour and 2. I've been pronouncing it wrong the whole time. I've been saying Godot. It could be Godot. It might be Godot. It might be Godot. Nobody knows. I call it Godot because it just reminds me of Gal Gadot, the actress. If you're using the Steam install, it won't work. Yes, you want to be using specifically the download from the Lingo website. As mentioned before, because Lingo is written in a very specific version. I think at one point, Brenton considered updating the version of Godot, but I don't know if that ever happened. Either way, it still works in the current version. So, you got all of this. Some people care about this. Having a file in here called steam_appid, and then putting this number in just means that Discord won't think you're playing Space War when you're editing. Because that happens, apparently. The texture is breaking, and Brenton says it's because of Godot 3 updating to 4. Long story. Okay. I will say that is a little bit outside my scope, I'm afraid, and if there is anything that Brenton can do to help, I will let him do that, because I don't know what's going on there. I know how to do the Lingo side of Godot, I don't know how to do the Godot side of Godot. And speaking of the Godot side of Godot, you'll generally want to be using Windows 351 Editor 64-bit. And you'll find something like this. I say like this because you won't have this showing up. That is normal. This does not automatically find anything. So from this screen, you're going to want to go, I believe it is Import, Browse, and then you're going to want to find where you left your Lingo install. If this is really being recorded for after, I might just sit out and ask questions in Discord. There is a Google form on the Discord. If you want to stick any questions in there, I will all look at those in the end. I will look at those? I will look at all those at the end. And I'll cover them. So, yeah, the link is somewhere. I can put it in the chat. If I find where the link is... Bear with me 1 second. Nope, can't find it. Oh no, here it is. Bing, bing, there you go. Will the VOD be on Discord? I'm sure there will be a pinned thing for it. So yeah, it'll be accessible. However you want it, you're welcome to DM me on Discord, ABG Kiwi, and I can send you it if it's not. I think it will be on there though, so won't worry. Alright, thank you very much, and I hope you get a chance to take a watch at some point later. So, wherever you've got your Lingo install, mine is on my desktop somewhere. Where's desktop? Desktop. Somewhere. Lingo mapwork. Lingo. This is the folder that you've just installed from GitHub. Down here you'll find project.godot. I'm not going to click this, but you want to click open. And what that will do is it will do this, and you will get Lingo available in here. And opening it, you are met with the editor. And this is basically where you get started. This is where all of the fun bit happens. So, there's a lot of things going on here, and I'll briefly cover the anatomy of what's happening. So, on the top left, which is this bit up here, if I use my OBS, I can do this. It's this bit where my head is right now. That is the scene inspector. And that is something that is the most useful part of this entire thing, and I love it. I'm pretty sure every editor has this, but I really like it and it's helpful. In the bottom left, down here, that's where all of the files are for you to pull and drag around, open as you will, anything like that. And all of this section on the right, is there grid snapping? We'll get to grid maps, that'll basically be the first thing I cover. Basically be the first thing that I cover when I get into the actual editing itself. So all this stuff on the right is the node inspector. And that is basically where you'll look at individual parts of the map. The map itself is not currently here, and that's because we have to make it first. So to do that, all of the maps will be under this folder here, called Scenes. There's a lot of stuff in here. Most of this you can ignore. You don't need to look at controls.tscn, because this is just part of the main menu. Similarly for credits, this is just the credits for the game. All of that stuff is whatever. The first thing you're going to want to do is level new. I'm so surprised you have to make a map to make a map. I know, right? It's chaotic, shambolic, and unnecessary. So, I always start with level new. Some people start with level all the things. Some people start with level empty. It's not part of this install, but they got it from somewhere. Yeah, with level new, duplicate. Whatever you want to name your level, you'll stick it in there. I'm sorry for the speech, by the way. I stutter when I'm cold. So, we'll name this for now Steve the Map. So people start with level Greenland. Some person starts with level Greenland. But yes, you are right. So we'll call it Steve the Map. So level new and Steve the Map currently have exactly the same thing in. What is Level Greenland? It is a map made by Chris Suvi, and it is also the map that Isley bases most of his maps on. Possibly all. I'm not sure. I think there might be one. Oh yeah, Isley Palace. So, we've made Steve the map. Let's go in and take a look at what's going on. Why am I so far away? Normally, you'll be somewhere in the middle. For some reason, I am out all the way at the end. How do they already make a map? I don't know. You probably just use some magic. For some reason, I want to implement ice physics. Very doable. I will cover a very rudimentary look at scripting somewhere down the line. So, aside from the fact that for some reason I am 10 miles away from the map itself, normally you'll be somewhere in the middle. So the first thing to look at is how we're actually moving around. By holding right click, you can free look the camera, which is very, very handy. You can then use W, A, S, and D to move as you'd expect. Shift will help you, I'll call it sprinting, but you're not really sprinting. Holding E, you'll go vertically up, Q vertically down, and I'm saying it like that because it varies depending on which way you're looking. If I'm facing the floor and holding E, I'm not going up, I'm going forward. So it's a little weird. And yeah, that's basically all the movement controls. It's QE, WASD while holding right click. You can also, I believe, press Shift F for free look. Yeah, Quartz, I'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, Shift F is free look. That's fine. Additionally, if you're holding right click and you use the scroll wheel, that will change your flying speed. It's holding right click, not shift, by the way. If you hold shift in the mouse wheel, that is your zoom. So, both of you are wrong, and I'm right, because I'm smart. Right click mouse wheel is speed, shift mouse wheel is zoom, control mouse wheel does the same thing. So, I like to have the speed a little high. The actual number itself doesn't matter, it's whatever you're most comfortable with. So, there's a lot in this map. Level new is a little bit complicated. I say complicated, I mean messy. So in the middle, you've basically got the very simple setup. In the middle here is the player node. And with Godot, when you're clicking on stuff, you'll see these three axes. These are, as you'd expect, movement. And then Control-Z will undo, I'll probably use that a fair bit. The usual keybinds that you would expect are usually what they are. You can also use these squares to move along planes instead of axes, which is not very helpful, but it exists. Where's my snap at? I'll put my snap on 1, just because that's what the default is. Ignore what I just did. That's not how your Godot will be. This is how your Godot will be now. If you're holding control while moving stuff, it will snap to a 1-block grid. So every time I move, it's going to be exactly on a grid point. And you can see over here, under the transform, this is the position of it, the rotation of it, and how big it is, so you can make the player twice as tall if you want. I don't know why you'd do that, but you can. Yeah, so that's basically just how you're moving stuff around. Translation, you probably teach what all the stuff on the edges of the screen are. I already did that course. Up here, Scene Inspector, down here, Node Path, on the right, Node Inspector. It's a little bit awkward to try and fit my face in, by the way, so I'm going to have to shrink myself down a little. And yeah, there's a few cursors, and this is something worth mentioning. Sometimes you will accidentally hit W, E, or R, and that will mess with your cursor, and then things will do weird things. If that happens, press Q, and you'll go back to this normal mode where you can do whatever you like. I use Blender, so I at least understand some of this stuff. Fantastic. Most of it is the same as you'd expect from most game editors. But yeah, in general, you click something, it selects it. You click something, it selects it. There's the panel in the door there. You can also select it from up here instead. These panels are all in this building. So that's all great. This building, pretend it doesn't exist. I will go over it because some people will be curious, but pretend it doesn't exist. It's just everything in here. You can also use level empty, has been mentioned, yeah. Level empty has none of this in. I prefer to use level new because it's got nice stuff to copy from without having to do it all from scratch. But yeah, in here you'll find a little bit of everything. You've got the countdown panel, you've got a panel that can't be solved. I don't know what the purpose of this is, but it's here. A panel that just is a panel, but the purpose of this is so that when a panel is solved, it triggers this countdown panel, as you'd expect in the base game. I'll cover countdown panels in more detail later, so if I gloss over something now, don't worry. But yeah, most of the stuff in here you can copy and paste if you want to. You got a sign there, a scoreboard here. This is a level swap panel. You usually won't need these, but they're helpful. The most important part of this building are these two. These are the warps. And I like to always keep these in the map because I like to copy paste them. It's just easier than making them from scratch. Like I said, for now, don't worry about all of this. It's a little overwhelming, completely understandable. We'll start with the basic bits. Looks like level new still doesn't use Snappy. I personally don't like Snappy. And I'll cover that with panels in a bit. But yeah, very first thing to go over, the blocks themselves. That is the bit that most people are going to be interested in. What's Snappy? We'll get to that. There's a lot of questions. I'm glossing over a lot of stuff before getting into like tackling each of the separate parts on their own. And then when it gets to putting things together, we'll have a look. Also, as is relevant right now, if your map ever has an asterisk here, it's because you've not saved it. Control S save, whatever. Panel solver is connecting doors to before you've created its panels, then you can delete it and see what breaks. It's part of my process, not recommended. I don't think I've ever used that. I think I've just set up doors, just with the normal UI. So, first bit to go over because it's the simplest bit, grid map. If I click on grid map, you'll see that this big orange grid shows up. It kind of radiates out and vanishes after a while. Over here, you've got all of the blocks. And if you click on them, you can just paint. Do whatever you like, paint it, cool, fab, easy, this is all whatever. Oh no, I have just put a giant mess in the middle of this map. The map is ruined. Not to worry, right click will delete. But you might find that this is really strenuous and arduous. If you hold shift, you can select a flood area. I made spaghetti. Interesting spaghetti made of brass, red, and floor. I don't think I'd eat it. But yeah, shift click will select an area like this. Very, very handy. You can just cover the whole area. Press the delete key and the whole thing's gone. You can also do flood fill by selecting the area, Control F to fill. And if you've done this, you can then select areas, copy and paste, as you'd expect with Control C and Control V. Annoyingly, Godot likes to deselect the grid map after you've done this sometimes. But yeah, Control C copy, Control X cut, and then you can just place it down somewhere else. And wonderful, we've made a Mondrian, I guess. It will help to also go up and down. A Mondrian. It's kind of like the painting of like the coloured squares with like the black lines between. The grid map becomes unselected because it selects the floor instead. Sure. I still don't know why it does that though. I don't know why it just selects the floor randomly. So, when you're on this stage, you might want to do some more vertical stuff, because obviously not every map is made on the floor. You build your stuff there. If you hold Control and scroll wheel, you can change the floor. Other ways to do this are E and Q, same for the movement controls. Or you can just type the floor number in here, and it'll go up or down, as you want. So you can do like that, go up, do that, go up, do that, go up. You can also do the same thing with copying. You can then change the floor on which you're pasting. It didn't do it that time, even though I was clicking on the floor. Very nice. Yeah, you can copy, you can put it on different floors, anything you like. You can also change your select area by holding the shift and left click, and without letting go, you then start pressing E or Q, and that will go up, or it can go beneath the floor. You can see the box going down there, but you can't see the highlight because the floor is in the way. Cool. That's copying, pasting, and building done, basically. The next bit is to look at the grid map itself. There's also editing on X and Z. There is. I personally don't bother with that, but if it does help, pressing the buttons Z, X, and C on your keyboard will change the axis on which you're building. So if you wanted to build up here, and then build further out, you can just build stuff in the sky like that without having to manually do all sorts of shit. Yeah, it helps with decorating a wall, it does. It is helpful. Not much of what I do in my maps involves decoration, so I've not generally touched that. It's nice if you ever need to build a giant wall full of letters. Now, why would you want to do that? But yeah, I generally just press X to go X-axis. Z is, unsurprisingly, X-axis. What? Huh? I don't know why they've done it like this. Z is the X-axis, X is the Y-axis, C is the Z. And as you can see, you can just do this. So you can just do it in here. Also paintings. Yeah, okay, it is very helpful for paintings, I will give you that. So, with grid map basically done, I'm pressing Z now and it's not doing anything. Thank you, Godot, for being fantastic. So, you want to build a room really quickly, you can shift left click, drag your stuff up, fab. Do whatever you like with this. And if you're selecting over an area, it will replace blocks. But if you're copying air over, it won't replace things with air. So if I copy this into this area here, it won't overwrite this corner. Just a minor little thing that's worth noting. You can just delete everything though. It's worth noting with the grid map that you can mess with it in many, many other ways. Because you can rotate it. And you can translate it. And if you're going to transform, you can scale it. And why might you want to scale it? Well, I'm going to duplicate the grid map very quickly by clicking it and then doing Control-D. And then just deleting all of the blocks by selecting all of them. Bang, it's gone. An important reason you'd want to duplicate the grid map is for the sake of checkering. And to do that, I'm going to just name this by double-clicking, and I'm going to call it grid map checker. We're going to go into transform and set the scale to each direction 0.5. Apparently I have not successfully deleted everything, so there's a bit of excess stuff in the way. If that happens, that's fine. It will only delete from the grid map you have selected up here, so you won't accidentally delete anything from the normal grid map. And with this grid map, you'll just notice it's a little smaller, so all you need to do is build the checker as normal. I don't know what this block means, bright red grey. If that's a mechanic, we'll find out. Overlapping grid maps do not replace each other, is another thing to mention. So if I put some blocks over the other grid map, it will do this. It's called Z-fighting. No checker door tutorial? I don't know why, I just didn't feel it was really helpful. But yeah, this will cause Z-fighting. I don't like this effect. It can be put to good use in some ways. I don't like it. But yeah, overlapping stuff on different size grid maps will just do that. Because it's trying to put two things in the same place, and it never knows which one's in front. It just guesses, and puts them both in front. So, what else is there with grid maps? Pipes. For pipes, we're going to want another grid map. And grid maps are fantastic. That's not how you delete things. I was on the wrong grid map, so I didn't delete this. Cool. Why are you not deleting now? Oh, because you're on this map. I'm not very good at this. To prevent Z-fighting, you could shift everything by 0.0. Okay. You make a good point, but there is a small issue with that, and I'll show it with this panel. So this panel here, if I go back to... So as you can see, I can't click it right now because I've accidentally pressed E at some point, and it's gone the wrong mouse. This panel is at 0.999, so it's 0.001 off. An issue with this is that as you get further away, it doesn't do it in the editor. Okay, it does it here, so I don't know if you can see it very well from out here, but it starts to Z-fight from a distance. For me, generally, I would try and offset things by about 0.005. And that really prevents it. Like, you know, I have to go all the way out here before I'm even noticing anything. I think it's a floating point thing. It would not surprise me. It's more noticeable in game. Some maps, I think it happens in LL1. If you're too far away from panels, they will start Z-fighting a bit. It's just a bit ugly. It doesn't change anything about the function. The panels will still work. But it's not pleasant. Happens in the base game? Yeah. All panels in the base game were at 0.001 offset. Thank you, Brenton, for saving us all and putting them at 0.01. But yeah, Z-fighting, sorted. Pipes. Pipes are a checker grid map, and that's basically all it is. So the only difference about this and a checker map is that you're going to want to change the translation to 0.25 in each direction. And that will offset it slightly. And from there, you can just pipe things around as you want. Now, if you wanted to gatekeep someone, easy. If you see places I've missed, feel free to report them. Yes. Any issues with the game, any issues with the editor, do report them in the bug reports channel on the Discord server. So, hair in my mouth, sorry. With the grid map touched on, I believe there's everything. If anyone can think of anything I haven't covered that I maybe should, let me know. But I think that's everything. Normal grid map, the controls of it, checkers, pipes. Is there anything else? I don't think so. Cyathus is Brenton, yes. Different mesh libraries. Okay. It's worth touching on. It's not something that I use, but it is definitely worth mentioning. So, I'll duplicate this map because it's empty right now, and I'll just set the transform back to 1. Kept seeing it on the white block in the hedge maze? Yeah. So, over on the right here, you'll see mesh library is one of the settings for the grid map. There are a lot of these. You can mostly ignore any of this stuff, because this is unhelpful. But if we go back to the grid map itself, if we go right-click, quick load, there's a few of these. So, there's large only, poker, small, all of these have different types of blocking. The polka one has the polka colours in. If I bring it up close to the camera. That's not poker. Why is that not polka? This isn't either. But this is. If anyone knows why this is the case, please say, but some of the colours in the polka library are not polka. I imagine this is probably just because they're newer colours. Or just colours that didn't need polka variants made. But yeah, there's the polka blocks. You can change the library to... What else we got? Don't do that. You can change it to blocks library tiny. This is all of the tiny mesh instances. Misread medium red as Marmite. Well done. That takes skill. Yeah, so the library tiny has the tiny ones. Large blocks only doesn't have any of the tiny or small ones. Which I will mention quickly because some people use them for decoration. Under blocks library large, if you scroll down, you'll see small and tiny mesh instances. These are just meshes of different size. Originally, these were used to make paintings, but they're now just kind of used for decoration. So there's the big blocks, the small blocks, the tiny ones. Cool, those exist. I will very, very quickly touch on collision layers, because that's interesting. The large-only mesh library also doesn't have all of the larges. The mesh libraries exist, and they are a cryptic myth never to be understood. Did large only have all the colours? Okay, which one are you asking about? Large only? Because large only does have most of them. I think it may be missing 1 or 2 custom ones. But there's also blocks library large 2, blocks library large, which are all different. It looks as though blocks library large just has all of the small ones. No navy blue in large only? That's navy blue. Yes, that's right. It's missing the glasses. You're right. It's not missing glass. Glass is here. But it is missing the glass colors. So so that's worth just mentioning briefly. Right. I think at this point that is all of the grid map stuff. I will touch on collision layers, which Quartz jokes about. But does it have void? Yes, it had matte black, I'm pretty sure. No, it didn't. Mesh instance 6. No matte black. Rotating selections. No, I didn't. And I will touch on that as well. Thank you for mentioning. So, if we're going to do something like this, we've got this big 3D thing. If we select it and cut it, you'll see glass does weird things when it's selected. Don't worry about that. That's just how it looks. If we use the A, S, and D buttons, we can rotate them around axes. So if I'm pressing S, it's rotating it around the Y-axis. If I'm pressing A, that's going around the X-axis. And for D, it's going around this. Now Kit. Is it Kit Kat or Kit? I don't know how you'd like me to refer to you. I'll call you Kit Kat because that's nice. I like Kit Kats. But yeah, A, S, and D will rotate things around this. I can just press S to get rid of the section. So, I will very briefly touch on that, because a good side note from grid maps is that you don't necessarily need everything to be grid map. And the reason I mention this is because there are mesh instances. The floor is one of them. So I'm just going to use this as a quick thing. Yes, Milan, you can rotate, and that took me ages to realise as well. So, you don't like the seams between glass? If you use a mesh instance, and I'm assuming you said you've used Blender, I think you probably would have a good guess as how to do collisions. I'll cover that later anyway. But you can just change the material on this, on a mesh, to just glass block. Yeah, you're basically just stretching one bit of glass, and you won't get the seam between them. And the same goes for any of the coloured ones, obviously. Do excuse my sniffles, it's really cold here at the moment. Yeah, you can just stretch a glass block and it will not have the seams. And a couple of people have used that. Have I used it? Yes, I have. Right. No, I think that is definitely everything for grid maps. There's no nagging feeling that I'm missing something this time. So yeah. General go over everything real quick. Grid map. Click, paint, right click, delete, shift click, select area, control F to fill, delete, delete, E and Q to raise and lower layer, both of selection and painting. All good. I will get to fake walls, yeah. And I'll get to better fake walls as well. Yeah, rotating if you wanted to do funny things. There's copying and pasting, all that sort of thing. Paintings as grid maps, aka how to make a painting. I will get to it. I will take bits from the top going down to the slightly less used thing. So, after grid maps, you're probably thinking, grid maps aren't made of puzzles, how do I make puzzles? One more grid map thing, no non-uniform scaling please or collisions will randomly break. That is true. Make sure that your scale is usually at some equal thing, otherwise things go weird and we don't know why. And that is actually the end of panels now. Panels? Grid maps. Ugh. Okay. Godot moment. Just modify cell scale to be safe. That would work, I think. I think that's a little bit beyond basic as going into any of this stuff. I'll touch on any bits if people want to ask about them at the end, but for now I'll gloss over this and say, just trust the scaling on the grid map. So, we'll save quickly, even though I've done nothing. That is a panel. And now we've done panels, cool. So, panel high is here. This is your basic panel. There's a lot of stuff on this, and I'll go over it one by one going down the list, and then I'll start touching on the other bits of panels. Text, unsurprisingly, that is the clue field. So we'll make the clue on this Steve. And this does update live. If you copy and paste these, it will update weirdly. So I'll just duplicate this for a moment. You can see that if I edit this one, it edits both. Don't worry about how they render in the editor. After a restart, they'll update. But if you copy paste things, weird stuff happens. And the same goes for the colors of doors sometimes as well. So, Steve, hi. Title is the clue text. Pro level making tip. No, Milan, I'm not even saying that out loud. Restart unlinks the visuals. Yes, if you restart the editor, I mean, okay, I can show you real quick. So if I duplicate this, change this one to say Steven, and this one to say Stevie. They both say Steven. I'll save. We close. If Godot closes it, reopen. It unlinks the visuals. And now they update as normal. So yeah, if they look the same and they shouldn't, in general, don't worry. If they look the same after a restart, you've built something wrong. So, title, or text, is the clue. Answer, might surprise you, is the answer. We'll make it Stephen because this is a middle way. Placeholder override. Normally what a placeholder will do is for every non-space character, it will make a dash. So for instance, Stephen will show up as dash, 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 dash. Answer is space and case insensitive. Yeah. I mean, that's worth touching. Lingo is entirely in caps. If you type lowercase, it will just caps it. Yeah, placeholders will generate based on the answer text. So if the answer is like, hi there, the placeholder will be 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you wanted to confuse someone, if you type something in placeholder override, that will display instead. So a panel with placeholder override, if you go into game, will look something like this before you've solved it. Placeholders are helpful-ish. They do stop insert hint mode from working, but it's useful if the answer is something like, I don't know, it apostrophe s. You can set your placeholder to dash dash apostrophe dash, and it will show the apostrophe. Most panels don't have placeholders, so we'll just make that say Steve. Enable checking. Normally on a panel like this, after you've typed 6 letters, it will go red and not give you the answer. If you disable checking, you can just type as many letters as you like. Can you use all Unicode characters? No, you cannot. You can use any A to Z 1 to 0. You can use most punctuation, but you can't use, for instance, I don't know, what else? What doesn't work? Does tilde work? Tilde works? Oh yes, another thing to mention. @ is the welcome back smiley. And if you use the Unicode frowny face, it will give you the welcome buck smiley instead. Yeah, Shift 2 @ You can use Unicode characters, but the Lingo font only has some of them. You can use an infinity symbol, but it won't display. So if I wanted the answer to be like, I don't know, banana, and then infinity symbol, I'll just use an asterisk to hold it. The answer would look like this. If you pasted the infinity symbol, it would just look like that. You can do infinity symbols in another way, but not as part of a panel's answer. You can do it as part of a clue, and I'll go over that later. All letters with accent marks like cafe should work? Yes, that was a fairly recent-ish thing. You were hoping to use an infinity symbol for the placeholder override? No, unfortunately. I wish you could, but you can't. Yeah. Enable checking. If it's on, it will stop at 6. If it's off, you can just type as many letters as you like. Achieved text. When you solve panels in Lingo level 1, take for instance the bold outside the red area. This is what will pop up on screen and then go into the achievements menu. So if I make this the Stephen, it will now give me the Stephen achievement. So I'll make the placeholder override say banana. I'll disable checking. Save. One thing that I will do very quickly to touch on is that you can press F6. And if you press F6, it will launch a test instance, which OBS is trying very hard to display. There we go. So we set up this one so that the placeholder says banana, as we'd expect. The answer we know is Stephen, and we should get the achievement, the Stephen. Shows up here. Fab. Alt F4, get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. Replace on complete if you have a second panel somewhere. We'll call it panel high 2, put that there. You can click the assign button and it will show you everything. Just make sure you pick the right one. F6, replace on complete. I'll delete that. We go banana. Nope, it's Stephen. I'm confusing myself. Oh, they've already replaced because it's being weird. Yeah, you see I solved it there and they swapped. Can you insert a new line character into the achieved text? I will divert that question to Chris. I don't think so. I'm fairly sure you can't use new line characters. But yeah, replace on complete means anytime the panel is solved, it will just swap places with the other one. If you do this based on a scale as well, so if this one is twice as tall as the other, it will maintain the scales of the original locations. The auto generator doesn't let you add new lines, but you can hack them in. You can indeed. So, with panel replace, if I replace this one, you can see it maintains the scale on the other. It will also maintain rotation, anything like that. Then I can just unsolve and resolve this. It'll go back. I don't think that would work how you'd want. No, probably not. The issue with having the new line text, if it's in a panel answer field, enter will exit solve mode. That was a follow from, if I hide my OBS, Shinkai, thank you very much. That's Lingo level 1. That's not what I'm meant to be on. I'm meant to be on this and this shit. There we go. So, now there's another follow, which for some reason is playing, but it's not displaying it on the stream. Don't know why. Thank you, Milan. Very nice to see a follow from Milvanis. Very good. And Brenton. Thank you. Good lord. You just like the sound, even though it's not coming through. Hang on. Things will look weird for a moment, bear with me. Ah, I've vanished. What will I do? I'm back. Ah, there we go. Now it's showing. That was a Chris Suvi follow. Yeah, I disappeared into Matt Black blog. Cool. Follows are now actually showing. And yes, my follow thing is Lingo Guns. Because that's really funny. So if you want to have your name under some Lingo Guns, you know what to do. 5 followers close to affiliate? True. 4, 5, 6, 7 in total. So, we've gone over everything up to replace on complete. Entry point? Pretend this doesn't exist. This is used for level swap panels. I don't know why it's in the normal panel, but it is. Solve sound, you can make it so that the panel won't go da-da when you solve it. If saved, panels that are under this node. So on the left you've got panels, and then there's some subsets. The panels that you want saved have to be a subset of a subset of the panels node. So you have a node that's the child of the panels, and then the panel should be a child of that. If it's not like that, it won't save, and if anything else is in this section, it won't run in the editor. It will run in-game, but it won't run in the editor. If I put a panel down here, it's not saved. Can you modify the solved sound of a single panel with some scripting? I don't see why not. Is there a way to get a panel to disappear on solve? Yes, in fact there is, and I'll cover that in literally 2 seconds, because I've got 2 things left to do on the normal panels. background material, this won't update in editor, but if I set this to the name of a material, which you can find by searching files for material, these are all of the materials you have to work with, this panel will now be red on the background. It doesn't show it right now, but if I save and F6 it, you will see that the panel is red. Grand. You can do this with sign panels as well. Impossible, it does what you think it would, just make it so that the panel can't be solved. Right. Shinkai, as you have asked, I posted a script for custom solve sounds in just Lidwongo things on Discord. Excellent. Pretty much anything... Okay, if you're asking a question that says, is it possible to do this? The answer is yes, if you write a script for it. Usually you won't need to write a script, because most people come up with ideas that can be done with in-game mechanics. But sometimes you will need a script. Don't learn to code, just copy someone else's. So, to get a panel to disappear on solve. At the very bottom of this, I think my head might be covering it. In fact, it is. I'm going to move my head out the way. You see there is this script thing down here. If you click on it, it will show you code, and that's terrifying, so we won't click that. If you right-click Quick Load, and you search for panel, there is this panel destroy script. So double-clicking on this will make this a panel destroy. Which means that now if I go banana, or banan, we'll say banan, because banan is really funny. We'll save, and we'll load the map. It doesn't update, but the panel is solved, so it is already destroyed. Grand. Very helpful. Thank you, Godot. But yeah, because it's panel destroy, if you set that to panel destroy, when it's solved, it will delete itself from the game. In Brenton's own words, it will shrink itself down to the size of a gnat's toenail, and then go 1,000 blocks into the void. So it's somewhere down there, really, really small right now. But for all intents and purposes, it's been destroyed. Just like me, for real, for real. I hope you're not the size of a gnat's toenail. That's really terrifying. Anyway, put it back on panel main, just because panel main is the one to work with. Hi, that is the default panel that you will find in level new. And as expected, you can duplicate these, put them wherever you like. You've now got normal panels basically sorted. There's a few other panel types to touch on. Number one, most things that you want to add you will drag in from the bottom left. So let's go down to our decorations nodes down here. I'll hide all of these because we don't care about these yet. I'm just going to add a node, and I'm going to call it Steve. I don't know why, but that's the word today. Down here we've got a few things to bring in. Could you theoretically layer like 5 panels over each other and use panel destroy to hide each one sequentially? Sequentially? Yes, you can. So it's a bit awkward because of the way panels work, in that if you look at a panel, your raycast, which is this big blue line coming out the front of the player, it ends about here. This is the solving one. Probably better with panel replace? Probably yes. But you can do it with panel destroy. It's easier to start with panel destroy, but it will probably play nicer if you use the replace. Yeah, so this long blue line is the player's raycast for panel solving. So as long as the panel is where the tip of this is, or closer, you can solve the panel. That's just worth briefly touching on. So, sign panels. Down here, there's a few of these. Sign.tscn is the ones that will make the... Missed the first hour, might have to use video instead. Not to worry, I imagine there's a bit of this you probably know already. Most of the stuff in this I think people have a vague idea about, but I'm touching on everything if I can. So, sign.tscn, it will look like this when you place it. And then it will click down like that. This is a sign. Oh no, it's Z fighting. So let's make this negative 0.95. It will stop Z fighting. Most things are on sort of 0.5 intervals on the X, Y, and Z, by the way. So if we do that, this is now where it would normally be. You can type whatever you want in here. Hello. Hi. ST, enter new line, Eve. And now we have another sign that says Steve, because I don't know why. I really don't, and I'm sorry I'm like this. Sign panel is a bit different. Sign panels are the ones that you'll see in the library, and they look like this. And you can do new lines on these as well, like that. As with before, you can use the app for that. Make one of the signs say sleeve at random. I mean, I'm not releasing this level, but sure. There you go, sleeve. Sure, there's now a sign that says sleeve. For people who don't like being precise about things, you'll want to use snappies. I will touch on that in a moment, Quartz. Snappies, what they will do is that they will lie to you. And you can turn on snap to grid, and they won't snap to grid because they're awful. Do you see why I don't use snappy now? I hope you see why I don't use snappy. But these are meant to snap to the grid, and they are kind of useful in that with normal signs, when you rotate them, they will rotate around the middle. With snappy signs, when you rotate them, they will rotate around an offset, which will make it easier to go to separate parts. Snappy works beautifully. I have snap to grids turned on and it's not snapping to grid. I don't like snappy. What else have we got under panels? A lot. Panel pillar? What is panel pillar? Oh, I know what that is. Configure grid snap on your editor. It's on translate snap 1, but it's not actually snapping to the grid. I have the snap box checked and it doesn't snap. Snappy panels work fine for me, and I'll bring those up now. Thank you for the segue. Panel snappy will... It's not snapping. It's not snapping. Godot moment. But yeah, panel snappy. There's a Godot toggle icon at the top. I don't know what you mean. That there's... I'm toggling the snap to grid. This normally works, but it doesn't. If you mean this one, I mean, I just hold control to do that. You'll show me later? Thanks. Snappy panels and snappy stuff is intended to automatically go to the nearest 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. That lines up with the middle of a grid map block. And as you can see, when you rotate them, they stay on the block. Unlike how this one just flops around in the middle of the wall. So snappies are useful when they work. For me, they just don't sometimes. What else? Panel reverse. Pretty much what you'd expect it to look like. Thank you for not being 0.99. I won't care about particularly precise precision for these because I'm just looking at them. This is just a panel, but it's upside down. It's what you'd expect it to be. It's upside down. You can do funny things if you do this, and now it looks like it says eh. Very helpful. I've used that trick a few times now. What else have we got for panels? We've got countdown panels. That's very important. Pretend that panel countdown doesn't exist. And why is the inverted panel not all caps? It is all caps. That is an exclamation mark, but because I flipped it upside down, it looks like it's not. If I do that, there you go. Now it looks like it says hi in lowercase. Yeah, they're not a perfect one-to-one match, but they look kind of close. The difference is the centering of the text is a little off between the two. Yeah, you can see the text centering is a little weird, but generally, yeah. Remember, this is a reverse panel that's upside down. It is not an actual panel. You can't do lowercase. You cannot do it. You could use the Spanish upside down. Let me find out. Upside down exclamation mark. Does that work in Lingo's font? It does indeed. There you go. So yeah, you can use the upside down exclamation point, which does somehow work. I didn't think it would, I'll be honest, but I guess that's part of the Spanish localization. Added it to the font. Excellent. Yeah, if you want something added to the font, by the way, do feel free to either message in the map making channel, message Brenton or Chris or someone who can do pushes to the Git and basically add content. But if you wanted the character added, it will get added. Oh no, my snappy panel is not snapping. Let me put it back. There we go. Yes. Next thing to look at, we'll look at countdown panels. So, let's say we have another panel all the way beneath the map. That's not going to get solvable because that's way too far away. If we add to our decorations a countdown auto, I prefer these. You can use normal countdowns, but you have to set panels manually, and that's cringe. These are always offset because it's a snappy one and I'm silly. So we won't use that one because the panel down there, yeah. You don't pair snappy countdowns with non-snappy panels and vice versa because it goes weird. Grab food? Alrighty. Hopefully we won't touch on too much complicated. Most of the stuff is going relatively slowly, so don't worry. Right. We will put a panel countdown also. Now, just because it has panel in the name does not mean it goes into the panel node. I will reiterate this briefly. You want countdown panels to be a decoration. We'll just make this look nice. Cool. It's all black. That's normal. This will always look black. You won't see anything on this. Replace with panels, nested and max length are the only things that you need to care about, so thankfully they're the only things that are there. Nested just allows you to do it for every panel in the map. If you set it to this node, it will take anything that's under these nodes. Replace with, if I do, which one was it? What was the one at the very bottom? It was panel high 4. This high 4 is now going to be the one that shows up when this countdown is fulfilled. So if you've played the main game, you've got, say, right outside of any of the color areas with the color tutorials, you'll usually find a countdown panel. And they're roughly, I think, between 15 and 20 in general. Panels, for this, on the auto, you'll want this to be the node that they're under. So for this, we'll go entry room. This countdown will now say 5, and it will be based on all of these. The one small thing to mention is that because it's now taking this panel as part of it, we'll use max length on 4. So even though this is now taking from 5 panels, you only need to solve 4 of them for it to toggle the replace. I'll just quickly demonstrate that. With high, you see it goes down. High, you'll see it goes down again. And with high, you'll see it goes down again and replaces. Countdown panels are extremely simple. You just select the node, you select the stuff, you stick them together. I just realised I've been to the left the whole time. That's better. So yeah, you can also use normal countdown panels. Instead of having the panels like this, I think I can maybe just do this and it'll work. Yeah. Instead of having nested and max length, you just have to set the panels manually one each. This is messy, and I would not recommend doing this for a first-time mapmaker. This is useful if you're trying to do lots of complicated intertwining sections, but you also want your panels organised by location. Other than that, I wouldn't worry too much about non-auto. So I'll just put that back to where it was before. Right, what else have we got under panels? Is it worth touching on proxy panels? Yeah, maybe. If I do that, I will set this script to panel proxy. There's also panel end and a couple of others which I will touch. Scoreboard, not yet, but I will in a minute. In fact, no, I'll do that now because scoreboard is more useful than proxy. If you have a sign down, a sign, not a sign panel, by the way, a sign. Right click, quick load. You should find a script called scoreboard.gd. If you equip that, this is now a scoreboard. It hasn't updated in the editor because the editor doesn't update things. But if I hit F6, it will crash. Welcome to Godot. I imagine that's probably because of this. So I'll delete that. Or it's because of this. Maybe. Just in case, I will delete those 3 nodes. Is it going to work now? Nope. What's causing this crash? Why are you crashing? Why are you crashing? You shouldn't be crashing. Oh, because scoreboard is a panel group now. Okay. When you've set your scoreboard, set your panel group to panels. That's why. I think I briefly mentioned that, yeah. If a panel is not under this panels node, it's not saved. I think I mentioned that before, but yeah. Thank you, Tetley1964. And yes, I'm saying 1964 instead of 1964, because I developed code and I can't read 4-digit numbers the same anymore. Now that I have set the panel group on this, it should load. Right. Why are we doing this? What is happening? Do we get a follow dance? I can do a follow dance. I can't dance very well because I've got a joint problem, but this is the best I can do. Why is this crashing? Truly. Is it because this panel group needs to be on entry room instead? Is it silly? What's happening to scoreboards? New Lingo emote just dropped? Oh no, someone's going to have recorded that. Okay. Setting the text to @ shouldn't make a difference, I think. No, it's about the panels. Have I got something in the panels node that's not a panel? Is that what's happening? No, they're all panels. Snap panel, panel main, panel proxy. Oh, I bet it's that. I bet it doesn't like panel proxies. Countdown auto is broken, not the scoreboard. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'll ignore that then. Pretend none of that happened. If your countdown panels are not set up, your game crashes. Right, the scoreboard should now crash. It's because of this one. Level new is a cause for cringe. You can set the panels on the scoreboard. On the scoreboard, you can set one panel node. There is a script that you can use to set multiple nodes. But yeah, 100% it's going to work now, by the way. 100%. Turns out 100's a really low number. Why am I crashing? Is it because this needs to be panels? We'll try this again. No. Apologies for the technical difficulties, but turns out... Is it because I have empty child nodes in panels? It shouldn't be, but I will check. No, it's not. Get node. There's a panel that's not doing something here, but it should be. I deleted things level new liked. Maybe it's this scoreboard then. No, can't be. What else in here is panel dependent? Do you know what we're going to do? If it's anything that's in level new, we'll know. It was Level News' fault. Cool. Back in it. Let's go. Countdown panel now works. I think it's because I deleted the panel that triggers the painting that's in the structure over there. If it crashed again, I'd cry. I would. So yeah, with this now set to panels, as up here, I'll just delete these for now. We'll get them again later. Yeah, this is now pulling from these. There are 5 of these, all 5 are solved. The scoreboard says 5. That whole section was because of the number 5, yes. So, in case you missed that through all of the kerfuffle, you put down a sign, you change your script to scoreboards.gd, and you set your panel group. It can be panels, or it can be one of the subsets. Cool. Good idea, Quartz. I will cover that now. If you wanted a panel that does... Why are you doing this now? Why are you going into that? Right. Reframe. If you want a panel to which the text or the answer is the player's username, you're going to want to go into the top right up here where it says node. Oh, that's why I crashed. I duplicated the panel while the test instance was running. Don't worry about that then. You're going to want to go into node, groups. I believe it's text underscore u will make it so that the clue is your name. And answer underscore u will make it so that the answer is your name. So I press F6, we'll find out that the player's name in the test instance is autosave. Yeah, I figured that out, of course. Don't worry, I might be bad, but I'm not terrible. Right. Cool. Autosave functioning. Yeah, so text u will make this be the player's name, answer u will make this be the player's name. Relatively simple. Anything else on the panels? I will touch on proxies, because proxies are a nightmare to deal with. So, if you make this a panel proxy.gd, you will now have a text field, an answer field, everything that you'd expect, and then proxied panels and exact proxy. If I do this, and I make 2 more panels, and I set the solutions to these to like big and big, why not? We'll set this one to panel high 6, which is this one, and we'll set this one to panel high 7. Is there an integer limit on the countdown scoreboard thing? Probably 2.147 billion. If I were to take a guess. Can scoreboard count specific panel? So the scoreboard in code 2 is a script that Hizumi wrote. It is available in the Discord for countdown panels and... No, not countdown panels. For scoreboards to only take panels of a particular node. So you can do that. But yeah, like I said before, in general, if the question is it possible to do this? The answer is usually, probably, but definitely with code. Yeah, so Chris has a point. So technically speaking, there is an integer limit somewhere in the high billions. But because of the way panels are coded, they are a little bit expensive on the engine. The practical limit, yeah, is roughly 2,500, because by that point the game won't run it very well. Shinkai, who is making Personal Project that has about that many panels, is going to be discovering the problems of this somewhat soon. So unless they manage to find a way to optimize them, I don't look forward to Personal Project Floor 3. And I don't think they would either. So this proxied panel is now linking to these. So we'll say this is something ig. If I save and test this instance now, what we will find is that this is solved. Because why would it be? Why are you solved? Oh, because you're in here. You need to be in the non-save stuff. Is each individual letter instanced? No, it's because panels are just a bunch of viewports. Viewports being, there is an invisible camera taking a picture of an invisible thing and displaying it. Right, why is it not showing the test instance on ABS right now? There we go. So, with this proxied panel, this is under the decorations node, these two are not. If I type something in here, it will type it into the other ones. So pig will solve the left and big will solve the right. They're relatively easy to set up. You can do things like have each of these tied to different doors. So, grand. And yeah, as Chris said, because of the way panels are rendered with viewports, it's bad. Supposedly fixed in the next version of Godot. So when custom maps for Lingo 2 start coming out, there will be a lot more potential for bigger maps. Cool. Proxy panels done. Next on the panels, is there anything? Let me think. Wall snipes. We'll touch on wall snipes. Very, very easy. Let's just use a normal panel like this one. You put all the panels in the panels node or just the original panel? So the proxy panel itself is a decoration. So the panel with panelproxy.gd goes under decorations. The other two go under actual saved panels. Right. Good. Cool. Funky thing about panels to mention is they're only visible from the front. Yes, but they have collision from either side. They can all go under panels, can they? I've always put the proxied one under decorations. How does that work panel count-wise? So, these ones count towards the panel count, but this one does. If it's in here, it will count to the panel count, otherwise it won't. So if this is saved, solving this will count as 2, basically. That's why I generally keep these under decorations. I don't know why you'd want it to count as 2, but you could if you wanted. If you want your panels to skip the number 69 in the scoreboard or something like that. Right. Wall snipes. Panels can be solved in walls, so put your panel in a wall. That's all it is. By F6, my test instance is launched. The panel should be about here. And you heard the solve sound. Yeah, you just put the panel in the wall. Go out of the wall, though. And yeah, as Quartz mentioned, panels are invisible from the back. This is not just an editor thing. This is normal. You cannot see this panel from the back. Anything else with panels? Anything else with panels? Anything else? Panel end, panel level switch. Yeah, we'll do those. A panel has many other ones. So we'll type panel in here. And we've got panel end. Panel end will change credits. If it has panel end or panel level switch, very important, do not put it under the normal panels node. Otherwise you will be permanently looped into the credits or into someone else's map. So with panel end on this, we'll call it hi, hi. Also, if dynamic credits is my name is Steve. We'll put this under decorations. Save, load. If I solve this now, we should see hi. My name is Steve. And this will update however you put it in the thing over here. So you can do carriage returns in this, and they do work. What happens if you give a level switch achievement text? Okay, so the same for panel end. So if I give it achievement text, call it the by. F6, show test instance. What it will do is it will display the achievement and then end the level. The same thing happens with level switch. It will briefly display it and then swap level. So just to show that, I will quick load this onto level switch. What will we call it? We'll call it by and by. So the level here, you're going to want to set the name of it to whatever level you want it to be. I will choose level underscore level 2. We'll do level 2 because level 2 is cool. This is where entry points becomes relevant, and I will set the achieve text as well, just for your question, KitKat. Call it bye-bye. Again, very important, level switch should not be saved, otherwise if you load into the level, you would immediately swap level. Entry point will change where in the level you go. So if I make this, say, what's non-spoilery? We'll go like 20 in the X direction, and then we'll set the entry point as well. So this is now a level 2 swap panel. If I type bye in here, it should briefly show bye-bye, and will then give me level 2, but I won't be in the normal spawn room. Or it'll just crash. Node not found panels countdown panels relative to root spatial. Why is... Huh? Why are you looking for that? I don't have level 2? Be better at hacking? Okay, well then I'll make it go to level new instead. F6. Bye, bye bye. And now I'm in level new, except instead of spawning in the middle, I'm out at the side. So this is level new. This is the same as level Steve, but without all of the stuff that has just been being done. This is what the level normally looks like. So teleporting in here, and because I set the entry point with change return to entry, if I do return to entry, it won't put me in the middle, it'll put me over here. This is basically how the staircase works, to make a long story short. Cool. So for now, I think that is everything on panels. Is there any questions that people have about panels right now that I might have glossed over or giggles too much while talking about to make any kind of coherent sense? And I'm expecting like 3 or 4, maybe 5 questions here. Do we want to talk about custom scripts at all? I will touch on those as literally the last thing. What happens when you proxy 2 panels to each other? Chaos. Solving one just solves the other. It's not that intense. I mean, you would never need to do that because a proxy panel that proxies to a panel beneath it just works. Is there a point to unsolvable panels other than trolling? Not really. Yeah, not really. How do I make panels melt in lava? So the first thing you're going to want to do is create lava. And then put the panels in it. And then write a script that make panels melt. I hope that's been helpful. But yeah, unsolvable panels are basically just there for funnies. As far as I know, there's no purpose to them. I think I remember reading somewhere from Brenton there was a point once, but I don't know what that was. Like an actual reason for it. But in general, you won't need to use them, probably. I mean, technically, no, there could be a reason. If you wanted a panel to be used to control things with an autosolve area, you could use the unsolvable panels to make it so that they can't be sniped. They used an afterword in their new. Makes sense. So yeah, they kind of have a use with autosolves, and they use an afterword as well. Unsolvable panel. So Alice, panels have this impossible flag on them that makes them unsolvable, basically. This is probably the right time to talk about autosolves. Is it? I don't think so. I mean, it's midnight, and I've not touched on doors. I've not touched on any of the other interesting things, warps, paintings. I think I'll do... Yeah, I'll do doors next, then paintings, then warps. Do paintings and warps together. Autosolves after that. Who needs doors? Everyone. So yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do now, because I think that's everything on panels. I will cover doors now. And I remember someone asked earlier about hidden doors. Really, really easy to set up. What you do is you go nodes hidden door.tscn, click and drag it in. and make sure it's somewhere under decorations. You now have a hidden door. Reference will just change the color of it. Again, if you search in here for material, you will see any of the options for it. So we can make this brown block polka. Remove on hint mode. So in the settings menu of the game, there is a checkbox that says enable false walls cheat. If false walls cheat is on, any hidden door will appear as grey. If this box is checked, the hidden door will be removed. So instead of being a grey thing, it just won't be there. But yeah, I'll quickly just demonstrate that this should be, if I go in... Oh, did I remove the panel that operates this door? I did. We'll just move the door. Yes, that's true. Anything childed to the hidden wall will also be removed. Visibility affects children, not just the thing itself. So this has hint mode turned off, but is not displaying this as a brown block polka. Maybe that doesn't work? We'll go blue block, because that definitely will. Yeah, there you go. So setting it to blue block, this is now blue block. As you'd expect, you can just walk through it. If you want a hidden door that is not affected by hint mode, you can just use a plane mesh that doesn't have collisions. So if I just duplicate this, bring it up, we'll delete the collisions on this. Right click, new plane mesh. Boom. We now have just a plane mesh. I can do this. I can change the material to blue block. This functions exactly identically to a hidden wall, except it is not removed or made grey with hidden mode. Cool. You can make a map impossible by having a remove on hint mode one, and you child the floor to it, so that if the player loads in with hint mode, goodbye. Basically. Cool. Hidden doors, much, much easier than doors. So we'll touch on doors now, because doors are horrible. I say with a bit of exaggeration. This is a door. There is one for free in level new that you can copy and paste and edit as you so desire. Panels, as you may expect, this is what panel will trigger what door. So if I add just another panel over here, we'll grab like a normal panel, stick it on there, bring it up, we will say text, we'll call this panel door so I know which one it is. Text door answer door. If I set this to panel door, save and F6, as you might well expect, as soon as it loads, there we go. Solving door, the door opens. If you unsolve the panel, the door will not close. Unless... If you child it to the door, does it move with it? No. And I will explain that why very quickly. So, if you make a door local, you can see how it's built. And the door is all of this. If you child the panel to this, it will move. If you child the panel to this, it won't. The reason being the animation player moves this node instead of this node. If that makes sense? But you can make things move with doors. So, I mean, if I wanted to, I don't know. I can't type the word sign today. Let's put the word sign in there. Where are you? You are here. Bit of a stretch smiley, but you get the point. If I save, I'm also going to put this door... where is it? You can change the colour, so I'll make it red block. Panel group, you can just select one of these instead of one of these. Door open animation scales with Y scale. Indeed, door open animation is weird. So setting the panel group will let you do one of these instead. Complete at means that you don't have to solve all of these. Basically, these kind of just work like a countdown panel. 100 times bigger door for ultra fast? Pretty much, but you can also just edit the animation if you wanted. I don't think I'll touch on that tonight. There is a video that Emmy made a very long time ago about modifying doors to do custom animations. When this is a VOD, I will put a link to that in the description. Because it's a really, really, really useful video, and I have referenced it many, many, many times. So, we'll remove on complete from this. So this door will now be able to close itself. I'm not going to make the door painfully slow. So, admittedly the Z fighting is annoying, so I will just move this out a tiny bit. There we go. If I now solve this, the smiley will move with it, as a side. Sometimes it's not displaying the streak properly, but yeah. With remove on complete turned off, the door will reappear. Cool. And yeah, with doors you can just set your panels to have more panels if you wanted more. You can have a panel group so it takes multiple complete at, so you can do like 4 of the 7 that are here. It's fairly self-explanatory, most of it, and as with everything else, transform works normally. What else with doors? Not really much, to be honest. I mean, they will always open downwards, so if you turn the door upside down, it will instead go up, if that helps anyone. So I can just door, and now it's going up. Kit Kat, the reason Quartz is saying that is because I did that in Chaos Theory. I think it's more like a 17-minute animation as well. But yeah, with the door upside down, the door will go up. They can go sideways, they can go long ways, all sorts. And I think that's basically just doors. Could you launch with the door or crush yourself? So doors do not transfer momentum. If you try and crush yourself, you will just ping out the side. But let's try it real quick, because we know that we can unsolve this panel. Let's go door. If I stand underneath it, where is the panel? The panel's like here, I think. Maybe there. If I unsolve it, yeah, the door just pings me out to the side. But you can have a player stand on the door while it moves up. Yeah, that would work fine. If you're standing on the door while it goes down, you will do a bit of a bouncy thing. There hasn't been a bit modified for that. You can edit the game to do that if you wanted. But yeah, lifts are weird if you try and do them. I think Chris made a full working elevator script that does have the thing that prevents player bouncing. So you could probably steal from that. If the floor is thin enough, will it clip you through the floor? No. The game will, wherever possible, attempts to push you sideways first because you are a pill. If you were a cylinder, maybe it would push you through the floor. But I don't know. See what, let's try something. Let's rotate this that way, and let's make the door like that. We'll save, we'll Alt-Tab. Let's stand directly underneath it and unsolve and see what happens. Yeah, it just pings you out to the side. It's not very interesting. You can't push people through the floor with doors very easily. You probably could if there were walls either side of it that moved with the door. But I don't think that's worth touching on. So what next? Probably paintings and warps. You just need a thinner floor? Do you? I'll take your word for it. Because I figured that you'd probably need something on the walls to stop you going outwards. Anyway. Yeah, doors are very, very, very simple. Let's touch on warps. So warps are horrible. So when you right click something and go new node, you can go for an area teleport.gd. This will be annoyed. You can also just copy these from level new, but because I deleted them, I'm building one from scratch very quickly. I add a child node for a collision shape, and I can go new box shape. Move the teleport out here, move it up a bit. We'll make the box shape. I think these are like, what, 1.001, I think? There's a 0.002. I think it's like that, actually. Yeah. So, with warps, you're going to need two things. You're going to need one of these, called warp underscore name underscore enter. And you're going to need another copy that doesn't have the script, called warp underscore name underscore exit. The warps are paired based on their names, so you can't direct them towards. You do also need to set the rotation. If the rotation is not set, they won't work. It has to be 0, 90, 180, or 270, or it won't work, because of the way they are written. Basically, the script determines this, and then converts it into an angle in radians. This is basically how the warp works, and I'll enter it backwards so you can see the clip where the door and the walls change. If I go backwards, boom, there was the warp. And I can just walk forwards a bunch here, and I will keep going backwards, basically. Very simple to set up a basic warp. You can set up two-way warps with pairs of these ordered in a particular way, so you'll want to have the exit for one like this. Swap these around. There's ways to do it. I'll do it really quickly just to show how to do it. Why did you duplicate the collision shape instead of just the warp? So we'll call this warp name 2 exit, and we'll duplicate and make warp name exit. And then we'll also have warp name 2 enter. You want the entry warp further into the hallway than the exit? Yes, I was going to touch on that. Don't worry, I do know some of these things. I set up a warp earlier, I promise. So, I'm also going to just go into the grid map and make it a little bit more obvious what's happening here. Just with some purple walls. Just like that. Which one are you? Your warp name 2 exit, which for some reason is not at 0, 0. Cool. So that's name enter and name 2 exit. Then this needs to be back here. This needs to be at the front here. This needs to be here. This should now work as a bidirectional warp. And I'm pretty sure you enter them through this way. So if I go in here, we'll crash because I forgot to set rotation. Oh, it's because of the... there. That's why. Don't leave the 2 on the end, basically. You should work now. Yeah, as you can see, the warp is now happening. So if I walk in through this one, we'll end up in front of the door. If I walk backwards through this one, we'll end up in the other one. I just need to make a push request to have the warp default to 0 rotation. Yes, please. So yeah, this is now just a perfectly working bidirectional warp. Just don't enter them from the wrong side or weird things will happen like that. So yeah, you probably want to have these gated at this side of that one and at this side of this one. That's basically just how the corridors in level 1 work, the archways in level 2, the teleport between the 2 quartz rooms in level 2 as well. There's a few. If you set it to 180, it will just rotate the player. If I set one of these to 180, the bidirectional won't work. The illusion will be broken. Which if it loads in a moment, thank you OBS. Yeah, if I walk into this one, you'll just ping right back out the other one. So yeah, you can change the rotation if you wanted, like, this to be perpendicular to this, for instance. There's ways to do things. In general, with rotation, trust your gut. If you get it wrong, swap the 90 for a 270. Key thing to make sure that you drag the parent warp node and not the child collision node. That is definitely true. You always want to make sure that the collision nodes of the areas show 0, 0, 0. This does not mean 0, 0, 0 of this area. It means 0, 0, 0 relative to the enter itself. What if an entrance and exit are on the same spot? You wouldn't teleport. There isn't really much more to it. You just wouldn't go anywhere. If the entrance of one and the exit of the other are on the same spot, weird things will happen, and we don't like those. So I'll overlap these for a moment just to show you. It wouldn't softlock, you just go straight through it. Yeah, if you... Hang on, I've done this wrong. I need name to exit to be up here, and name to enter... and name one enter down here, I think? Is that correct? No. I need name enter on name to exit, and I need name to enter on name exit. There we go. This should work now. We should now have, as soon as the OBS works, the issue with overlapping bits, and I don't like this. Now, bearing in mind that the editor instance works on 30 FPS, backend this is happening 60 times a second. So we don't want to do that, basically. And that's how warps work. And unfortunately, what that means is that now I have to talk about paintings. I don't want to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. Understand that this is just evidence of my love for the Lingo community that I'm putting myself through going over paintings. Right. There are 5 types of painting. We will start with normal paintings. What you do is you find the name of what painting what you want. I quite like Kiwi, I don't know why. Plonk it in your level. Rotate it. Move it down a bit. Make sure that you're a block off the floor. And at a nice interval like that. We have made a normal painting. Now we have to put it on warp. And I don't like this. So, what I will do is I will duplicate this painting and move it over here. That's all good so far. And now we need to make it warp properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my warps and I'm going to just delete those, take the exit. If we want this painting to warp here, what we're going to want to do is have the exit be on the back wall in line with the painting like this. So if the painting is a block off the floor, the warp should be touching the floor. Essentially their coordinates should be identical. So this is at -8, 1 and 1. The painting is also at -8, 1 and 1. If I go to this painting and I quick load the painting.gd script, hit F6. Again, OBS has to black things. You can just use paintings as an exit, you don't need a separate exit. You can direct it to paintings now? Since when? I've always used a separate exit. Maybe I'm just really dumb, because I've always done it like this. That said, the painting warp won't work right now because I haven't actually assigned the painting. So because these paintings are on the same plane, the rotate just needs to be 0. The target path, apparently you can assign paintings now. So I'll assign it just to the second painting, which is spatial 2 over here. I'll just delete this because apparently it's not necessary, as I've just learned. You see, this is a learning experience for everyone, including me. With this painting on the warp script, 0 rotate, target path spatial 2. I will save. We have our debug mode up. if I walk in and look at this painting, I'm going to do it from the side. This is how I test paintings, because they don't warp until you look directly at them. If I move my camera gradually to the right, eventually we will see that the game crashes. Now, when the game crashes, I can assure you this is intended behavior. This is exactly how it's supposed to work. Chris, why did it crash? Is it because you need to do it with a warp exit instead? Oh, now it doesn't work. Oh, yeah. It crashed when I tried to set it to the painting. Yeah, so setting it to warp you to a painting didn't work. It just crashed. So instead I'm using the warp as I'm normally used to doing it. So pretend what Chris said is rubbish, because I think it's rubbish. There is a warp here that is against the back wall touching the floor where this painting is. This painting has its target path set to the warp itself with rotate on 0, and that rotate will vary depending on where this painting is. I F6 this, we go in. Like I said, we can test warps by getting close to them and gradually moving the camera towards the middle of the painting. And we'll notice that the warp should be seamless on the painting and the wall, but not on these purple blocks. Boom. And that is how painting works. Good? Pretty simple. Let's go to the next painting one, which is the painting I script. Painting I is basically how the warps in level 1 and level 2's hub areas work. If I move this a few blocks back, let's call it just 1, half a block back, right? We want rotate to be the same. We want target path to be the warp exit as we were used to. We've also got these new ones. So, when the painting was correct before, it was at -8, 1, -5. So we want to set our X to -8 and our Z to -5. This means that when we solve the panel on key path, which I will make this one for ease of... Why are you going backwards? I never understand Godot. So we'll call this... Yeah, this is still door, but we'll make it say painting instead. Sure, that works. Right. We assign our key path to the panel underscore door. This will now work as this script is intended to work, I hope. The painting is not currently here, but if I type painting into this painting will show up. I don't know what happens if you resolve it. Absolutely nothing. Good. Door, my favourite painting panel, indeed. So, with painting I, when the panel is solved, the teleporting painting will move to the coordinates set on the move to X, move to Z in the settings of the panel itself, of the door. Of neither of those, of the painting. So painting I is fine. Now for the annoying-ish one. Let's quick load the last painting script, which is painting scenery. This will have basically the same thing, except for one thing. Rotate will set the same. Key path will set to this panel again. Target path will set to the warp, as before, but this time we have delete path instead of anything else. So what I'll do is I will take another painting. Let's go. What's a good painting? What's a really fun painting to use? D6. Stick our painting here. Rotate it. Put it on the right. Ones, -5. What will happen now? Right, unsolve this, and then reload the map. We should see that... What the God's name just happened. I don't know what just happened, but... What is happening? Why am I just going places now? Shinkai, you've seen this before? Appears if you have a painting.gd called spatial. I don't even have that. Put Kiwi then, fine. There we go. We'll just pretend this is working fine now. Either way, this section of the area... Huh? Oh, it's because I'm looking at blocks. Okay. This just in. Don't let your paintings be called spatial, or weird things will happen when you look at blocks. So, actual demonstration of the painting scenery script. Currently we have a dice that does not teleport us to the Kiwi. When we solve this, we should see that the d6 turns into a Kiwi. Yep, that's definitely a d6 turning into a Kiwi. It was a crash because I forgot to set the delete path. You know I'm not very good at this, right? Every single map making person ever has had this bug, right? Well, F6 again. And that should have now, in theory, put the d6 back. Actual one which won't crash. So, on solving this, the d6 will turn into a Kiwi that will then warp us. Good. Boom. There we go. What about time? So, you have to unsolve every panel when you finish a map? No? I don't know why you would. The clicker? I don't know, my love, I'm sorry. It's not on my desk. But yeah, as Shinkai said, you can just make a new save if you want more with empty panels. It's not too bad. I'm just using F6 mode, which uses the autosave. This is mostly for testing features, but you can just put it into your maps folder, as expected. So, I think that's paintings done. I think. And obviously paintings with no script can just be used as decorations. You can delete autosave from the save folder as well. Perfect. Even better. Right. With paintings done, what is there else to go over? Someone throw an idea at me. What do I need to do other than paintings? We've done grid maps, we've done panels, we've done doors, we've done paintings. Autosolves? Visibility expressions? Shader programming? Meshes? Have to leave now. Looking forward to watching the video. Cool. I will try and timestamp it as good as I can. Can you increase the puzzle solve distance? You can. So if you right-click the player... I'll do level uploading as well. So if you right-click the player and you make local, you will see all of the player thing. Raycast site, I believe, is the one that is used to change how you do panels. And to do this, if you want to increase that, you will change this to like -30 will double the range. So in theory now you can solve panels from 30 blocks away. We'll just test it quickly out with this one. So right now there is no way I am in panel solve range, but I can still change it. Can you rotate it relative to the camera to be evil? I mean, we'll have a fun aside real quick, and I'll show you what happens if you change the player. So I will transform the player to be half the height. That was Raycast's height, not the player. Give him half the height, and then we'll rotate them to the side a bit. How about that? There we go. And we'll F6. Yeah. You can make the player cursed if you wanted. Why would you want to? I don't know. Jumping doesn't work if you rotate too much, though, because there's raycasts under the player that detect jumping. I could probably jump here. Maybe? No. Because KitKat asked about rotating it. I mean, you can also just put the player upside down, but things don't work then. Yeah, the player is now upside down, which inverts the camera controls on the horizontal. Jumping also just doesn't work. Yeah, so if you wanted vertigo, this is a great way to do it. You can mess with the player to unbelievable extent. I'll put them back up. The player does have some settings that you could do. You could invert the jumping raycast. You could, yeah. You could just flip them. We can also drop gravity to like -5. We can make the walk speed 30, run speed 2, jump speed 30. Turn the friction down so everything's ice. And make terminal velocity 1. So this is now going to just be some immensely cursed player, by the way. I'm just showing this to show what you can do with the player. So right now, our walk speed is really quick. If I try to sprint, I'll go even slower. If I jump, I go really high because there's really low gravity and the jump height is huge. And then there's also ice physics because the friction's low. Yeah, you can mess with the player to ridiculous amounts. I am now roller skating, and now I'm in space. That's just a very brief, fun aside. Which I hope has been enthralling. I think Isley probably knows about this and just hasn't chosen to use it yet. But I feel like you should maybe use the friction on the player. So yeah, that's just a quick fun aside before we get into any of the other stuff. Right. Let's talk about my sniffles, excuse me. You want to see if you can rotate the raycast? I mean, yeah, you can rotate the raycast. You just want to go to the raycast site, and then you can have it offset. So now the player solves to their left instead of forward. That would work. Like I said before, in general, if the question is, can you do this? The answer is yes. The question is just how. So yeah. Now that we've had a brief aside on how to make the player unbelievably impossible to work with, and I'll set this back to -15 just because that's the default. Let's take a quick look at a few of the things. So number one is meshes. I briefly mentioned earlier how to do mesh that would, what's it called? That would give you a big glass window. But I will just go over meshes in general now. So we go into decorations. I'll just do it under this one. Doesn't really matter which. Type in mesh instance. It's put something here. We don't know what the something here is, but there's something here. And the reason why we don't know what it is because it's not been defined. So if we want to right click this, we have a bunch of options. To start, I'll do cube, because cubes are fun and easy. You can change the material with quick load, just scroll through, pick whichever one you want. Dark yellow polka, why not? This is clearly green. Sure. Under here you can change the size. Make that 1, make that 2. If you're using polka textures, it's worth noting that changing the size in here will crop the textures, but changing the scale down here will squish them. So if that's an effect that you care about, be a bit mindful of which of those you use. Currently this doesn't have collision. To give it collision, you want to add the child node of a, what's it called, static body. Then you want to click on here again, because there's this exclamation mark here. You click on this, click on mesh, and trimesh collision sibling. That will do that. And now this has proper collisions. If you invert a cube outside in, will it still have normal collision? I mean, collisions are not invertible, but cubes are. So on this mesh, I can go over here and change it to flip faces. This now means that you see the cube from the inside of the cube, and you see it from the inside. If I unflip faces, you don't see it from the inside. If that makes sense. But in theory, if I'm in this cube, I would just be stuck in it and colliding with the walls. It's not like a solid box, it's a set of planes. So you can't enter or exit it, but you can be in it. Also, there's a small possibility there's a faster way to do this, and it's just click this, mesh, try mesh static body. Yeah, okay, that's faster. And that will just give this proper collisions. And that's basically all there is to meshes. There's other things you can do. There's prism meshes, which are a different shape. Cylinders. Plane meshes I briefly touched on earlier. Sphere mesh, as you'd expect. Text mesh is very fun, and I like this a lot. You can write text in the game, so we'll set the font to Lingo 135 Stevens. And if you wanted to be really cursed, you could even just use not a Lingo font. And as you'd expect with anything else, you can translate, scale. Where did it just go? Put it in a corner somewhere, oops. Put you back over here, if you like. There you go. Giant Stevens in the sky. Can't wait to make a spheres only map for no good reason. Do it. Do it. You can do anything you want, because this is a game maker and nothing is limited. You can just script more things than you would ever expect. But yeah, and as I mentioned before, if you set a mesh's material to glass, you won't have this seam between them. So I can very quickly quick load this onto transparent purple block, and you can see straight through it. There's no weird seam like there is with these. Cool. Meshes, pretty simple. Let's touch on visibility expressions next. I think those are the next thing. We currently have a mesh instance here, so let's add a visibility expression to it. I will not get into expression logic, because expression logic is cursed. So I will get into the very basics of this. We will attach this to the panel that we used before, called door, because I am really lazy and don't want to make a new panel. This expression is currently false, which means loading into the level, this won't be here. That is to be expected. If this was true, this would be here always. Because there is a panel here in this, if I set this to say panels 0, 1am game over Kiwi, so true. Also, hi Shen. If we set this to panel 0, this will now make it so that this is only visible when the panel at 0 in this list is solved. Let's F6 this and just have a look. You can do Boolean logic, yes. So if I solve this with painting, the word has appeared. If I unsolve it, it disappeared. Yep, that would work. You can also do panels 0 and panels 1 if you have to. You could also do panels all. That works, I think. Or no, it's all panels, maybe. Something like that. But yeah, you are right. You can also do not panels 0 with the exclamation mark at the start. And what that will do is it will invert it. If I reload the map properly. But yeah, you can use double bar for or, you can use double and for and. There we go, this is now inverted. So now when it's unsolved, this is here. Yeah, visibility expression is very simple. You can also do the same with groups. If you set a panel group here, you would just want this to be groups instead of panels. Panels 0 and panels 1 or panels 2. Yep, that would work. So that would mean that if both 0 and 1 are solved, it's visible. And if panels 2 is solved, it's visible as well. So there's two separate conditions. One is both 0 and 1, the other is just 2. You can also do things like if you have a group, you can do count groups 0 equals 4, 3 even. The fun part is XOR. But yeah, you can do Boolean logic with this. You can do equals, you can do less than, greater than, pretty much anything you need. Very, very powerful. I really enjoy visibility expressions. So why don't we combine them with something else? Yes, that's how I'm segueing into autosolves. We'll delete the paintings for now. I'm going to replace this with one that has the quick load script of autosolve area.gd, and this is my favorite thing in the game. I am going to just very quickly make this one more. So this is now a big area, and I'm going to put it in the middle of this corridor. Let's add a panel here. Panel 1. It's currently facing this way. The answer is solve. And I'm going to make this impossible. Panel 0 and not panels 1, or not panel 0 and panels 1 is an XOR. Yes, that should be an XOR. I think you're right. Yeah, because exactly 1 has to be solved. You can also do that with, I think, count panels all equals 1. So just saying exactly one of them has to be solved. Or just to put both of those panels under a node and do count panels 1, or count group 0 equals 1 would also work. Anyway. This is very specifically an impossible panel. So we'll set this to solve on enter. Was it panel 2? I think it was panel 2. Yes, it is. What's over there? What are you doing? Why did it do that? It's evil. Anyway. This will now on enter solve this panel. I can do unsolve on exit and do the same one, which was panel 2. Save, load the map. Or not. Expected expression? What am I missing? Is it the visibility expression? Is it broken? Visibility expression is broken. I'll delete that. Game load, game load, game load. Ooh. Remember, this panel is solved with the word solved. I can't solve it because of the flag. However, if I go in here, it is now solved. If I now walk out, it's unsolved. So what you can do with this is you can do fun things with visibility expressions. So if I wanted a wall here, I could have it so that the wall has a visibility expression, so it's only visible when this is solved. Which means that walking through here will make a wall appear out of nowhere. And that's really, really funny. Yeah, autosolves are very powerful. You can use them to automatically trigger animations, automatically trigger doors. You combine them with visibility expressions to have things appear, disappear. All that sort of thing. So, I think with that, there isn't much more to touch on. Could also use that to make a button or use it to apply an impulse to the player. Yeah, so you can use scripts that apply directional motion to a player. Quartz has used those for jump pads before. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Areas you can just script however you like. So what I will briefly touch on is you can script anything you want. Make an aerial faith plate? I mean, yeah, you absolutely could do that. What you could do is you could have a animated node with a series of meshes so that when you walk on top of it, it plays an animation of it doing that thing, gives the player an upward boost, and then resets the animation slowly. You absolutely could make aerial faith plates. 100%, there is no reason not to. Now, you can script anything. We will remove the script from this autosolve area. New script. If you want your scripts to work in Steam version of Lingo, make sure that built-in is checked. And the reason you want to make sure built-in is checked is because otherwise it will try and find a script that doesn't exist in the game files. We'll give it the name Bongo. No reason why we would. and you'll see it's this. And then basically the rest of this is just, do you know how to write in C# and steal things from all of these other scripts over here. Gonna head out thanks to the stream? All good, Shinkai. If you have any questions, drop them in the form, which I'll look at probably in about 15 minutes, I'm guessing. But yeah, the very basic script here is just, it applies to an area, is what this means. This runs when you enter the scene. This means go to the end. So basically what this script is, it affects an area and does nothing. But you can do all sorts with this. You can make it so that when you walk into it, the player gets sent up. You can write a car. You know, there's all sorts you can do with it. I will leave most of the script writing not covered by me because I can't code very well. My ability to code is, hi Chris, can you make this for me? And he usually does because he's very nice. Is there anything else to cover? I mean, I'll briefly just touch on the fact that Godot has a bunch of other features that you can add. Many of them you don't need to use. But if we add child node, we can see that there's things like omni lights. Just very briefly, like, this is a light that exists. The light currently isn't very visible, but I can make it glow brighter. I can change the color to red if I wanted. But yeah, there's all sorts you can do with this. Godot has features, and many of them I don't know how to use. Ideally, I just wanted this to be a very basic, you know, grid maps, panels, doors, paintings, warps. Touched a bit on autosolves, meshes, visibility expressions. I don't think there's much else from me. Is the player able to push physics objects by default? You would have to make the physics object pushable by the player, if that makes sense. I don't think there's physics objects anywhere in Lingo, so you would have to do a bit of your own writing. But I don't see why not. There's no default because it doesn't exist. I think with Godot you probably do. It's only one way, so the physics objects can't push the player. There you go. Thank you, Chris. Right. On that note, I think the first thing I'll cover is the questions I've got on the Google form, which I've had 10 of them. Question 1. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? The very obvious answer is a woodchuck would chuck as much wood as it could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. No, I have not practiced that. Is there any easier way to move around within the grid map? No, not really. If you're in the grid map and you have a block selected, you can Shift F and it will look around and place it like a Minecraft thing. But you can't hold click, it doesn't work, so it's a little annoying, basically. But yeah, just pressing ESC to deselect the block, and then you can use the camera movements as normal. How do I make cutscenes? If you mean cutscenes like the one at the opening of Lidwongo, you copy the script. If you want to do an animation, you would want to have a local door, like this. So right-click Make Local to do it. You can change the animation by adding tracks to this, so like a property track that will move the panels around would work, like panel and then change the text. I can have a node here that will then, at this stage, change the text to buy. So then solving this panel will change the panel's text to buy. I'll let you trust me on that because this level is a mess and I don't remember what does what. How to custom painting, and I will ignore the second part of that question. How to custom painting? So what you can do, if you go into your decorations, add a painting, as you'd expect. Why are you not dragging in? Huh? Oh, that's the script, that's why. BG painting, that'll do. If you drag a painting in, you can then right-click and make local, as you do with doors. And a painting is basically just a grid map. What's the meaning of life? It's 54. Yeah, a painting is basically just a grid map. So if you go into the painting, as we've learned earlier, you can press C and edit on the plane. And then you can just change this painting however you like. La-di-da. There you go. It's called BG Painting and we painted on it. And this will work because it's been made local. This won't try and pull from an in-game resource like just dragging and dropping this in would do. Why is that small? But yeah, very, very easy. How to sequence checkpoints. Okay, I will very quickly talk about the meaning of life. It is not 42 because it got it wrong. The question of life, which was discovered by the Earth itself, which was the computer meant to find it, discovered that the question was what is 6 times 9? I believe he was playing, Ford was playing Scrabble with a caveman. And the caveman spelled out the question, what is 6 times 9? Something like that. So, let's have a look at what else we've got on the questions. How do you sequence checkpoints? The answer is you don't use checkpoints. A very easy way to do a checkpoint-like system without using checkpoints is having a series of auto-solved panels. And then you have a visibility expression at the end. So if you've gone through all of the auto-solves without straying from a path, you can also have auto-solves on the side that unsolved panels if you want. If all of them have been solved correctly, it will make the painting or the warp or whatever you want at the end appear. I would not worry about using the in-game checkpoint system. I don't myself know how to use it because I have found the auto-solve system to be much more effective and much more self-explanatory. Will there be a free provided template of Greenland? You can download that from Discord, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. Nicely. Will this show you how to work on a map for several months until there's 2,000 panels? I mean, most of that... Map-making motivation is definitely a thing that exists, and a lot of people struggle with it. My recommendation is don't do more than you need to do. And if you start feeling like you've gotten bored of the map and you want to put an ending on it, no one is stopping you. It means that you've got a bunch of ideas that you've saved for your next map if you want to make another one. Will you modify the entirety of level 1 and post it as a new map? No, Isley, I will not. I don't even know if that was Isley, I'm just going to take a wild guess. Are the rules consistent? No, because there is a panel that does not have a colour on it that still has a solution. Even though it's reverse blue-white checker. So yeah, if you... With regards to the more complicated questions here, cutscenes, you change the animation of a door node. I don't know about the actual way that cutscenes within Liduongo, but I imagine you can just copy the scripting from that. And the checkpoint system, if you go back and look at the way we talked about autosolves, you can series them with visibility expressions, and you should be able to do a very effective way of emulating them without using the actual checkpoint system itself. And that's what this is, by the way, checkpoint.tscn, and it's horrible. I don't even know how to use these. There's checkpoint, checkpoint end, and checkpoint start. Just trust me that those exist, and you don't need to worry about them. On that note, those were the 10 questions I have had on the form. Is there anyone in the chat who also has any questions that they'd like to ask about anything that either I've covered but they want more detail on, or anything that I might not have covered, anything like that? I mean, the obvious thing to mention is, if there are any other questions, I'm happy to reply to the comments in this on YouTube, or anyone in the Mapmakers channel on the Discord will be happy to help you out. Yeah. I think if there aren't any more questions, that's pretty much it. And now I've got a 2.5 hour long video to add timestamps to, and then upload to YouTube. That's going to be a render and a half. What happens if you have 8 different colours for a panel block? Do you mean like if I wanted to do something like this? Where I could... That's the pipes map. If I wanted to do something like this. What happens is you have a horrific mess. Blocks like this are generally not very passable. So the thing to note when making maps is make sure that when you're looking at a puzzle, it doesn't look horrible. Perfect, I have to do that now? Good. Someone should. I think something like this needs to be made. This very specific type of block. This needs to be a mechanic, and I hope someone makes it so. Any other questions? Every letter has a different rule. I mean, technically, I tweaked Luongo puzzles until they did look horrible. Did I do it wrong? No, Chris. You know how, like, when your kid comes home from school and they're like, look, I drew you something, and it's just a bunch of red squiggles, and you're like, that's incredible, we'll put it on the fridge for 6 years. And then secretly throw it in the bin 3 days later. Yeah, I uninstalled Luongo. But no, it was a very, very good map, Chris. We're all very proud of you. No, to your credit, Luongo is a great map, as was Duolingo. But yeah, if there aren't any other questions, I will call the stream here, and then I will do the uploading tomorrow, because it's going to take a few hours, I think. Did I see the Duolingo Crunchyroll ad? I don't even think I want to ask. Always happy to help, Brandon. I mean, it's been a bit chaotic. I will do my best to timestamp it as coherently as possible. But yeah, if there are any other questions, feel free to leave them in the channels. Someone will reply to them. Probably me, or Chris, or Brenton. Because I think most people who have been doing map making have generally kept it quite surface level, but Chris and I are very unhinged, and Brenton's quite used to it. So, yeah, as mentioned, anything about animations is going to be linked to in the description, where Emmy has shown how to do it in their video. Anything else, this will be timestamped. And someone will always be available to take your call at the help desk. Quartz no longer exists? Who? Time to make a platforming map with one panel? Absolutely go for it. And if you want, you can also change the friction on the player to make it platforming on ice. You're welcome. One last question? Go ahead. Negative friction. Do you know what? Let's round off the stream with finding out what happens. What if this is minus 16 instead? Presumably you just start accelerating. Oh, no, you just go backwards. Yep, that's a map. Yeah, negative friction. Don't use this. Wait, if I walk backwards, it's like almost coherent. Yeah, you want to have friction of about, like, we'll call it 3. Bye forever, Kiwi. Oh no! Yeah, so friction, this is friction 3, you slide a little bit. I appear to have shot off into the void indeed. But yeah. I'd imagine 0 friction just sucks. Probably? If I save and remember to... There we go. This is now on 0 friction as soon as the map shows up. No, actually, zero friction is not the same as negative friction. Zero friction is you don't move. I am holding W right now, by the way. I think the reason is every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so if there is no reaction, there is no action. Yeah, so friction kind of prevents you from being able to walk around properly when it's low. It's a little weird. Is Lingo a platformer? And on that note... I would say that Lingo is a game where you can platform. And that is all I'm going to say about the matter. So, on that note, I think it's fairly safe to say that I've covered much of what people are going to worry about. So, I will leave you to make your platformers, to make your cursed visibility expression based autosolve mazes that don't use checkpoints. I will leave you to make warps that teleport to themselves and paintings that crash your game, and to destroy level new with every fibre of your being. Because who really needs this giant white block, anyway? Alrighty. I will call the stream here, and I will start the uploading to YouTube tomorrow. But thank you all for coming. I hope I've thoroughly covered everything that is helpful. And yeah. I will definitely be getting some rest now. I have multiple bits of daily stuff to do, so I will say good night to the Brits, good evening to the Americans, and good time of day to anyone else's time zone I don't know. So yeah, goodbye. I will cost this aside and copy Greenland. Good.